Hello, everyone. Welcome to the State TA Day webinar. Please confirm that you can see our screen and that you can hear our voices, or my voice.
You're hearing more voices.
Yes.
We're concerned.
They can hear you.
Thank you so much. Okay, our first person up on the agenda is Lisa Matter from our EQIT team. Jennifer, can you mute yourself? We can hear the background noise.
You got it. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah. I'm going to switch places so I'm closer to the pickup. Thank you.
Did it switch to Eva's screen? Or to Eva?
To the EQ screen? No. We got it on the presentation. We're just getting a screen ready for you. No one can see your screen. Click here to start screen sharing.
And then click that.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. So good afternoon. Happy January. This is Lisa. Eva will also be here with us in a few moments. We're going to give you just a couple of highlights for the EQ initiative as you're thinking about your planning for the upcoming fiscal year, because if you have read through your statement of work and your notes about EQ, you'll see that there have been some changes. So I'm hopeful that if you have questions, you can go ahead and start typing those in now as we get started, so we'll have time to respond to them while we're here this morning. Oh, I gotta make sure, how do I forward my slide? There we go. I just always like to start with this reminder that the goal of the EQ initiative is to to ensure that infants and toddlers have access to secure relationships in their child care settings. And one of the strategies that we use to do that is to strengthen the skills and knowledge of infant, toddler, early care educators. To that end, you do most of the lion's share of that work in your communities, providing the EQIT course and its coaching model. I'm going to just celebrate a couple of things. We do have all the data in from the first half of the year, all the courses that ended, but by December 31st, there were 29 EQIT courses, graduating about 18 people. That altogether, 529 teachers, which was somewhere about 60 more teachers than we had in the first half of last year, so we're pretty excited about that, including 41 who completed the course in Spanish. And of all of those adults, they served over 4,000 children, and 50 teachers are also working towards additional ECE 111 credit. We would love to hear from any communities. Sorry, Siri's listening to me talk. If your community is supporting a Child Development Associate, the CDA, we would love to hear about the strategies that you're using, because you may or may not have realized that EQIT covers most of the areas of the infant toddler CDA, and it's a really rich opportunity to it's another way to get credit and recognition for the EQIT course, similar to EC 111. So we would also love to hear of the communities that are on the phone, if any of you are working to support people to earn a CDA in your community, particularly the infant toddler CDA. So we want to talk just briefly about your projected budget. Again, those numbers are always projected for EQIT because it's such a small little bucket of money. As last year, we're anticipating $4,500 per course, which includes that $300 cushion that we thought was specific to data and reporting. We do plan to be a little bit more flexible with the reporting, with the invoicing for the course in the coming year. We did hear from communities that it was a little bit difficult, but it will essentially be the same model. Let us know. We don't want to reimburse you a whole bunch if then you don't end up having a course, which has happened in a couple of communities. The change that you'll notice, and it looks like a big change, but it really is a reporting change. We're asking you to set your coaching reimbursement rate This is somewhat similar to the way that you're conducting coaching for QI, but not quite the same, because you're still going to invoice directly through myself, and we're not using Sugar, for example, to track this funding stream. However, we're going to ask you to project your budget for the amount of coaching that you think you can provide and include the costs for your EQ coaches to receive reflective supervision, because as you know, they're required to hold a coaching credential, for travel, and again, under the same kind of rules that we've had about travel in the past. We can support some travel for coaches in communities where coaches are traveling more than 30 miles to provide coaching, and also building into that rate enough to cover that coach to attend at least one day of the EQ statewide meeting, as has always been the requirement. And we do want to remind you that we always encourage you to charge a fee for EQIT. It builds the buy-in in communities for individuals and programs that are paying that fee, but never more than $50 per person. And please don't turn people away if they can't pay. And then let us know how you're going to use those funds. So we'll ask you on your budget to project how much you think you'll take in fees and where you'll put that in. And again, if you have any questions about this, please do pop them in. Please do feel free to call me at any time. I will be out of the office 2 days next week training people in reflective supervision. But other than that, I should be around and be able to plan that coaching rate with you. Keeping in mind, we saw that 148 hours of coaching were reported in the first quarter. So coaching from July through October, 148 hours. 234 hours to date have been reported for the second quarter. And when we look at the big picture of the state, we typically offer about 2,500 hours of coaching. You can see that this is a small percentage of those hours. And so one of the things that we're thinking about, we want to think about as we look forward to next year, as you're planning those coaching hours, is the evidence base for EQ coaching is it's effective when participants receive somewhere between 8 and 15 hours of coaching. That 8-hour minimum is based on the large body of coaching evidence, and that 15 hours is based on our study of our coaching model. And we have heard that it's difficult to get those hours in the fiscal year. And this year we have been able to track coaching that was provided to past participants, so people who took the course the previous year, and we're going to relax that rule to 2 years. So what we want to see is when the fiscal year starts in July and you have a new bunch of coaching hours to start using, we would like to see more than 148 hours used in July through October, because you can call up those past participants. Maybe they only got 6 hours. Maybe they're ready now to receive some coaching that they weren't ready for or were too busy to take advantage of while they were in the class. So do keep that in mind. And again, if you have questions, let us know. One of the other strategies we use, of course, is Eva and I invest in your infant toddler specialists in your community. And Eva's going to give you a little overview of an opportunity for you to learn more about EQ and also to hear revisions to the curriculum.
So, as you know, many of you know, I've been working on Module 12 and Module 16 to do revisions. Module 12 is done, so we're excited. And we want to share the new learning experiences with you all and with all of your trainers. So we wanted to invite you as council coordinators if you'd like to join us, but also please pass this information along to your EQ teams. We will be doing a live broadcast, so you can join us via the web of these new learning experiences in Module 12. It will be February 7th at 11 a.m. Sorry, we're getting a little feedback. We will cover the 3 new learning experiences in that module. And so EQ instructors who are teaching currently are definitely encouraged. This will be kind of like their training. So we'll also record it, but we'd love for people to join us live if possible. And I think that's about it. Please pass this information along and invite your EQ team.
And if you happen to be local in Denver that day, please let us know, because you can come and be part of the guinea pig audience and participate and hang out with the rest of us at the same time. Also, we want to keep on your radar that the EQ statewide meeting is coming up May 22nd through 24th. The 22nd is a required coaching refresher for active coaches. And of course, if we're trying to give people as much advance warning as possible, but we know that some people will have challenges. So please do reach out to us on a one-on-one, case-by-case basis to make alternate plans if there's a challenge. We're going to bring an outside presenter in on Thursday, May 23rd, and it's going to be devoted to really deepening our understanding of assessment, documentation, and aligning curriculum. We've heard that that's a content area that coaches are finding that coachees want more information on, and we hope it'll be a powerful day. And then on Friday will be our statewide meeting where we'll connect with different colleagues and partners from around the state, and would love to see all of you there. Just a quick reminder about the coaching credential, because that coaching credential, when you get all your application materials in by the 15th of a month, for example, February, it'll be reviewed by the 15th of the next month. There are several pieces to that coaching credential. When you look at cocoaches.net, you'll see there's a place that says the application, but then there's several pieces under that. So we just want to provide a reminder. And we have a question about that.
We have a couple questions from what you presented on.
Great.
Okay. Does this mean I can ask for more coaching than I did in the past?
Yes, and definitely call me one-on-one to talk about that. As I said, the EQGAE is a tiny little pot of money. It's less than $500,000 for the entire state, serving 1,000 people every year in the course and all of those pieces. So yes, if you have the capacity to offer more coaching, we want to hear about that and we want to support it. And we're hopeful that this change of the way the funding is organized does encourage communities to be able to facilitate that coaching more effectively and efficiently.
So this kind of ties in, this is more of a statement than a question, but it ties into that previous question, and your answer is, in order to put in 8 to 15 hours per participant, we would have to have additional funds to support it. We use all of our coaching hours during the fiscal year and can always use more.
Excellent. That's what we'd like to see. We want to see those coaching hours. The thing about coaching hours is it's great to get them, but it doesn't make change. The evidence base tells us that it doesn't start to make change until somewhere between 8 and 15 hours, and that's where we want to see. We would rather see fewer people get more hours than more people get fewer hours.
Will there be a registration link information handout for our EQIT trainers sent out?
Yes, yes. Both for the meeting on February 7th, we will send out links, and for the statewide meeting, those probably won't be out until February, but we do want to give you that heads up. We also want to give you this. Was that all the questions?
Anna, thank you for being very responsive.
Thank you. We do want to also give you a heads up. 2020 seems far away, but it's in this upcoming fiscal year, and there will be another EQ Infant Toddler Specialist Foundation course. It's going to experience some significant changes, and we want to give you heads up about that. If you are planning to send to train new infant toddler specialists, it's likely that, again, we'll always require that they've already taken EQIT. We may also require that they've completed relationship-based professional development and or the 8 PDIS courses on adult learning. Just to give you a heads up that there are pieces, and again, much more information will come out about that, but we want you to be aware as now is the time to find something and get them into EQIT. And thank you for all the work that you do. I love this question and wanted to challenge you to think about it as you consider your building your statement of work. If you are doing EQ work, what do you want to be known for in infant and toddler care? Answer that question as you guide your work, and we'll be happy to partner with you. Thank you, and we look forward to continuing to work with you in the next fiscal year. I almost did it in my time. Sorry, Jennifer.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next presenter is Jennifer O'Brien, and we do have someone on the phone that's making a little bit of background noise. If you could mute yourself, it sounds like you're flipping pages.
I think I fixed it.
Okay. Jennifer, are you there?
I am here. Yep.
Let me get your slides up.
Okay, great.
5 minutes. See if any more questions come in for us.
All right, go ahead.
All right, great. Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer O'Brien with the Early Childhood Workforce Development Team within the Educator Talent Division here at CDE. And I just wanted to tell you quickly, or give you a heads up, I guess. You can go to the next slide, Monica, if you would. I just wanted to tell you all about a revised resource that is available for district-based early educators who are evaluated under the Educator Effectiveness Law. And so first, a little bit of background. Educator Effectiveness came out of Senate Bill 10-191, so sometimes you'll hear it referred to as 191. But it's a system that evaluates and supports district-based teachers and principals with the goal of ensuring college and career readiness for all students. It applies to educators whose positions require them to hold a license. So in the early childhood world, that would be some teachers in some of our districts and special education teachers. And there are a variety of supports available on the Educator Effectiveness website related to implementing the system, including what we call practical ideas guides. So the next slide, thank you. Monica, could you switch to the next slide, or am I seeing some lag? It hasn't
I
changed
think
on
there's
my
a
screen.
delay.
Okay, all right. So I'll just go ahead and look at my presentation that I have here. So the Early Childhood Practical Ideas Guide was a collaboration between the Educator Talent Division, so the division that our office is in, and then the P3 office. And it really, the goal of the guide is to help early childhood educators and their evaluators complete a fair, valid, transparent evaluation. And, you may or may not be aware, but the state model system was the state model system was recently revised, and this guide reflects those revisions. And then the biggest change that we made within the guide is what we called Exhibit 5. And it's basically a table of all of the teacher quality standards, the elements, the professional practices, and how it might look in an early childhood classroom. And so there are also, we broke it out by grade bands. So there is preschool, there is kindergarten, and then there's grades 1 through 3. And so this is just a resource to, help make implementing this system fit the early childhood context. Okay, so next slide. So this is the web address where this guide is available. And then if you want more information about educator effectiveness in general, there's the website. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. And then also if you have feedback on the document, like we could have added this, or what about this, then there's a link at the beginning of the document that you can send your feedback, and it basically gets to the owners of the document. So that's all I have. Any questions for me?
We don't have any questions so far. Let's give it a few seconds. Please type your questions in for Jennifer.
We have a thank you, Jennifer.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, well, I have Jennifer's contact information on the slides. So if you do think of something later on, you can send her an email.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Elizabeth Navarez from the Colorado Shines Child Care Search at Mile High United Way. Elizabeth, just hold on a sec and I will unmute you and have you share your screen with us. Okay, Elizabeth, I just unmuted you.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I don't have a screen to show. My time will actually be very short. I don't have a lot to share with you all. I only have one topic actually, but I think this is a very exciting and important topic that I want to share with all of you. So it's the beginning of the new year, and what I will be doing is a survey. So I am preparing a survey with a list of questions that I want to send out to all SDAs. The purpose of this survey is to gain a better understanding of your area, your community, and what are the needs and the trends inside of your community. We want to learn more about you. And so I'm preparing a survey. Just keep an eye out for it. It'll be a series of questions. So I'll send more instructions as we get closer, but I'm hoping that this is something that will be beneficial for you and for us as well. We want to help your communities better. And so I'm hoping that this is a good way for us to connect and to have, a stronger understanding of each area. So keep on the lookout for that survey. And if you have any questions or if you have any input as to how, what questions I should include, I'm definitely open to your suggestions. So feel free to let me know.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Jennifer, we did have a question if you're still on, and it's, will we be receiving a PDIS survey soon? And then while we're looking at, see if Jennifer's here, if you have questions about what Elizabeth presented, please don't hesitate to submit them.
Okay, I think Jennifer logged off. So if you don't mind, whoever submitted that question, just go ahead and email Jennifer O'Brien.
I'm still on. Can you repeat the question?
Will we be receiving a PDIS survey soon?
Oh, yes. Yes, about the 15-year time limit. Yes, just as soon as I can get it out. But yes, that still is on my to-do list.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure.
So moving right along, we have Emily Wengrovius and Karen and Bowden. They are going to present on the School Readiness Quality Improvement Program Rule Package.
Great. Thank you, Monica. It's not showing yet.
Oh.
We have the cute child. So as you guys know, the last legislative season, the SRQIP legislation was updated, and part of the updates to the SRQIP legislation was that we had to update the SRQIP rules package. Most of what was done to update this package, a lot of it was taking out outdated text or practices or names, or making sure that the current rules account for the fact that we had launched a statewide rating system that was embedded in licensing and in Colorado Shines. So cool. I think I see it now. Okay, yes, we're there. So so that is kind of why let's go to that first slide, Monica. The background to updating this package, we did get a group of interested councils and partners together to really put some draft language together that we could then send through clearance and to the state board here at the Office of Early Childhood and for the Colorado Department of Human Services State Board. So the basis of the rule package, as you can see here, is it really just aligns the quality improvement programs. And so we're talking about aligning SRQIP, ITQA, and targeted QI, which used to be called CCAP QI, with Colorado Shines. We're trying to streamline the administration of the programs and basically what I talked about earlier, which is removing and amending obsolete references. And as we go along, if you all have questions, please don't hesitate to ask them. And Karen, I don't know if you have anything to add, so please feel free to interject as we go through this. So. All right. So one of the things we had to do with the rule package as part of every package is we have to do definitions. So we can go through that. What are the funding application requirements for councils to apply to receive these QI funds, and then the eligibility requirements for early childhood programs. So we have a question, will the slides be sent out afterwards? I'm not seeing an area to download them.
Yes, they will.
Yes. So we can go to the, do I have control?
No.
Okay. So one of the things we did with this is we identified children with identified risk factors. And there are, the risk factors list is about 10 or 11 items. And we got these risk factors from looking at how CPP defines risk factors. And Karen, I'm not remembering the other source that we looked at. But we wanted to make sure that we were using similar definitions so that across the early childhood environment, we all kind of are on the same page. We did receive comments during the comment period that folks were grateful that they were so inclusive. The idea about also to know about the children's identified risk factors is part of that program eligibility piece is that programs to receive QI funds must be willing to serve children with these identified risk factors. And that the funding would target programs willing to serve the risk factors. So the other piece that we defined is what is the Colorado Shines Quality Rating and Improvement System? What's an early childhood program? So, you know, basically, you all know that with the eligibility piece about being licensed and serving children 0 to 5. We actually defined what a council is. And then the definition of high quality, which is levels 3 to 5 in the Colorado Shines system. And then we also had to define intentional misrepresentation. So that is if somebody, it sounds a little legalese, but it's basically if somebody deliberately or willfully falsely represents their program or their training or any of that piece. And so those were the big definitions that we had. All right. So for the application for funding for early childhood councils, is that you would apply on behalf of your designated service area. You would submit a 3-year school readiness plan, and the plan needs to address improving quality access and capacity for high quality access and capacity. You would need to target the funding, like I mentioned earlier, for programs to serve children with the identified risk factors, and then execute that MOU with participating early childhood programs. So it also states that you would seek funds through our formal procurement process, so which you all are familiar with, having been through an RFA with us this past couple years. So. The next page that we have is eligibility requirements for programs. So basically, that this is where we have, the level 2 or higher, or a hardship that needs additional resources to reach that level 2, that they're willing or able to serve children with identified risk factors, and that they execute an MOU with the Early Childhood Council. You'll notice here too, for the eligibility requirements, we didn't include language around having an open CCAP fiscal agreement. We received comments on that and your feedback, and so we're working. We recognize that there are some barriers at times for programs to obtain a CCAP fiscal agreement, and our team right now is working through the business rules around how to implement both the hardship, whether it's the level 1 hardship or the fiscal agreement piece. So when we have details on the execution of this, we will definitely share them our next webinar. So.
And they'll be included in your contract as well.
Yes, it'll be part of your business rules. So the eligibility for programs, as I mentioned, we have these 2 hardship exceptions, and that will be addressed in the business rules. So like I said, once we have details, we'll know more. So some of you had programs that did participate in the hardship funding this year for the level 1 with the open CCAP fiscal to reach that level 2. We didn't have a lot of uptake on that, so we're going to look into that very limited data as we come to the end of the period where folks can trigger that second half of funding. So. The question is, where do we find the risk factors? So the risk factors are going to be in the final rule. I can read them to you all if you want, and then we can also include the final rule as part of the webinar follow-up, if that's all right. But the risk factors are, and I'll just go over them quickly. A child with a disability or developmental delay under age 5 who has an IFSP, an IEP, or a medical plan. A child who has a home language other than English. A child from a household meeting income eligibility for CCAP. A child who is a migrant and meets the definition of migratory child in Elementary and Secondary Education Act. A child who resides on Indian land. A child who is in foster care, kinship care, or receiving services through the child welfare system. A child who is eligible to receive free or reduced cost meals pursuant to the provisions of the Federal National School Lunch Act. A child who is experiencing homelessness or frequent relocations to new residences by the child's family. Drug or alcohol abuse in the child's family. A child living in the home with an abusive adult. Either parent of the child was less than 18 years of age at the time of the birth of the child. So those are the risk factors that were identified. All right. The next thing we have is we're excited that Colorado Shines is also embedded in Rule. So you all are very familiar with Colorado Shines and the 5 standard areas that are that we look at in the points guide and then the ERS. The other piece is that there's the shall statement around what the Colorado Shines system shall do. So about measuring quality, being grounded in statistically valid research, including a quality improvement plan, have some demonstrated effectiveness in improving the quality level of providers throughout the state of Colorado, and also to be a variable to inform parents, counties, and other purchasers of early childhood care and education about quality levels. So, in a simple and easy to use manner. So the other thing that we really looked at updating in this is what does it mean to actually have improvement in ratings? That was a requirement in the original SRQIP legislation. So we put in, so the rules say that the goal is to earn and or maintain a high quality rating. So we had to define specific and measurable gains in Colorado Shines. So when we say in consecutive Colorado Shines ratings, what we mean is when they go through an on-site level 3 to 5 rating. So we are all familiar with level 2 sites that earn their level 2 either through the Family Child Care Certificate program or through the having the teachers do the courses, filling out the application and all of that. They are on that 18-month window from the time of the execution of signing the MOU. If a program goes to an on-site level 3 to 5 rating, and in that process, at the end of that process, earns a level 2, then they must re-rate within 18 months. If they earn a high-quality rating in that time, they will stay on their rating cycle. If that rating that they earn is a level 3, at the end of the next Colorado Shines rating, specific and measurable gain for a level 3 program would be either an increase in average ERS or an increase in total quality points earned, or they move up to a level 4 or 5. So I know the work group had a lot of discussion about how do we do this. And on the next slide, you'll see that 4 or 5, they need to maintain their level 4 or 5 in the next rating. So if they do not maintain their high quality rating, so they drop to a 2, like we said, they have to re-rate within the 18 months. So do y'all have questions about that piece? And I'm really sorry that we didn't send out the rule first. We probably should have done that so you guys could have reviewed it. So I apologize.
Yeah, I was thinking that this is Karen. You guys, sorry, I had some background noise and couldn't talk. But yeah, I know that once you guys get this and read through it, it's going to make a lot more sense, and we can definitely answer any other questions that come through. But wanted to thank you guys too for all of your thoughtful input on the comments that we collected during the process. So we did take those into account through this process.
So the first question we have is this an additional application we need to submit with the contract amendment? So no, this is all of these things about like what it means to make specific and measurable gains. These are all going to be part of the business rules. So when you receive your contract for signing, the business rules will be in there, and we can share those business rules as soon as they're finalized by our team so that you can see them hopefully before you get the contract in hand. And then Karen, I might need your help with this one. It's if a level 4 or 5 drops to a level 3, do they need to re-rate within 18 months or at the rating expiration of their current rating? My understanding, they would need to stay on that cycle, right?
Yep.
Go ahead.
They wouldn't have to rate in 18 months. They'd be on, they just drop to a level 3 basically, and then they'd have to follow that level 3 improvement plan basically. So they'd stay at 3. They could stay at 3 for those 3 years, but then the next time they rated, they would meet one of these criteria, the increase in average ERS, that sort of thing. So basically, again, keeping levels 3 through 5 in play as high quality. We just have the small qualifications under level 3 to see that progress to level 4 and 5. But
so
I will give you some good news. Our data has shown that none of our 4 and 5s have dropped to date, so that's great news.
So that's awesome, Karen. Is there a time limit a program can participate in a CERT-QIP? So no, there's not a time limit. The main eligibility factors are that continuous improvement in rating, and then assuming they meet the basic eligibility factors, either through hardship or through regular level 2 or higher open CCAP fiscal agreement indicating they're willing to
And
accept.
serving those families that are identified high needs.
Yeah. So that's one of the changes the legislation made. And then the rules obviously were updated to incorporate, to remove that time limit piece.
Because we've blended the funds now, we took out that they can't, they have to be in there 3 years or 6 years or all of that. So we took all that out.
So do they need an open CCAP fiscal? So again, typical eligibility, most of your programs will have an open CCAP fiscal agreement, I would think, and be level 2 or higher. We are looking at finalizing the business rules on what it would mean to have a hardship in opening a fiscal CCAP agreement. So once we have those business rules finalized, we will most likely present it on the next webinar, hopefully, and that will address what does it look like and what does that look like if a program has a hardship. One of the hardships is obtaining an open fiscal CCAP agreement. All right. Keep your questions coming. I'm going to go to the public access to ratings. Another piece that the legislation required, and also this is in our state plan, I believe, is that we have to post final ratings on the Colorado Shines website, and that it has to be in plain language and include licensing reports of inspection. So that key is that it has to be their final rating. So programs that go through a high quality rating, if they're in that consultation process and have not finalized that rating, until that rating is finalized, it will not go on the website. It will not be sent. It will not be acted upon by the counties from a CCAP fiscal perspective. So the other thing that we were required to do, dress in the rules, is a dispute resolution process. So for those of you that have gone through an appeals process or a rating with your program, you know that once the rating is released, the program can request a consultation. They have to request that consultation within 30 calendar days. And that is also the time when they can, depending on the consultation and the outcome, if they need to submit some documents for consideration, they can do so. This is also when they would also have a written formal request for an appeal within 10 calendar days of the formal consultation. So if they wish to appeal their rating or appeal any part of like their ERS, this is outlined now in rule as required by the law. So by the legislation. I know the law makes it sound really as required by legislation. So for example, one of the reasons we called intentional misrepresentation and not fraud is when CCAP fraud is actually a criminal activity, and intentional misrepresentation in Colorado Shines is not subject to criminal law. So what other questions do you all have? And again, I apologize we didn't send this out earlier. Will the CCAP hardship provision happen this current fiscal year or not until the new fiscal year? It will not happen until July 1st, 2019. We're actually sent you out all of the documents to create your contract amendments for next fiscal year. So the other piece is applications close April 15th. So this would all be in effect beginning July 1st.
And hardship applications were closed December 31st, 2018. So programs are no longer eligible for hardship until July.
So we have a comment from one of your peers that they enjoyed participating on the work group I found the work group really informative, and I'm glad that we were all able to come together and have a really successful rule package that I think gives us some great guidelines and flexibility to see, continue forward with our QI funding.
We will follow up with the rules and with these slides. So if you do have any questions, you can email Emily or Karen.
We're most happy to answer your questions. And like I said, as soon as our team finalizes the business rules, we'll get those out to you, because that's the implementation of the SRQIP rules. And if I remember correctly, Karen, the piece about the business rules and hardship is actually in the SRQIP rules, that we would address hardship in the business rules with the contract.
Really, that's correct. And that was really based on the comments we got from all of the councils, just to say, we probably don't have enough data yet to figure this out. So let's figure it out outside the rule package. While we get more data as we go along here, we can make those changes in the business rules versus having to go back to actually open rule back up. So we were super excited that we were able to get that into the rule to have that flexibility.
Yes.
Okay, we don't have any more questions, so I'm going to move along to our CSTAT slides. And we'll give it a little bit of time for the screen to catch up. But as you all recall, and hopefully you're looking at this with your coordinator every once in a while, our goal is engagement for those programs that are level 3 and higher throughout the state. Our original goal was set at 23.5 throughout the state, and is since increased to 25.2. These are going to be all programs with and without CCAP fiscal agreements. So trying to get 25.2% of programs throughout the state in high quality levels 3 through 5. We did have a slight increase of 0.1% since last month. So thank you so much, everyone that's participating in the rating and getting your programs through the rating process and rating high quality. Does anyone have any questions about these CSTAT slides? We will send these out in the follow-up email as well, and then just contact your coordinator if you have any questions about the CSTAT slides. Okay. And we will move on to the Colorado Shines QI. This is going to be those programs that are eligible for Colorado Shines QI. They need to have that level 2 in Colorado Shines and have a CCAP fiscal agreement. Right now, we have 746 programs that are participating and receiving funds, which is a total of just over $2.6 million that have been allocated. We still have just under $850,000 to allocate. And when we have 45 programs that are receiving capital improvement funds. Now remember, for capital improvement funds, the program needs to have a Colorado Shines QI application, and they need to serve infants and toddlers. If you remember at the beginning of the fiscal year, I think we had a cap. It was about $175,000 for capital improvement funds, but we did have several more requests than anticipated. So if you're looking at the slide, you'll see that we've awarded just over $281,000, and we are opening up that $849,000 for more capital improvement funds. The work does need to be done by June 30th of this year. So if you can think of any programs in your area that have infants and toddlers, a CCAP fiscal agreement, and are level 2 or higher that need some capital improvement, please contact the program and have them apply. Remember, they do need to submit the 3 bids in their application. Does anyone have questions about any of the Colorado Shines QI or capital improvement funds? The link below that you'll see on the slide is going to give you access to the MOU timeline. That's why it's there.
I don't see any questions yet, so we'll give them a little bit.
Okay.
And I believe you guys, we have until April 15th, correct, to do additional MOUs and applications to spend down the funds. So got about
That is
a little more than almost 4 months to, and we hope to see that get down really a lot more than it is now. If there are any remaining funds in that bucket, then they'll be reallocated into other CCDF activities that'll be related to quality, such as system enhancements and things that we need to do. But we're hoping that you all will get your MOUs out and started and your capital requests in so that you have access to those funds. That amount went up quite a bit because we didn't have as many hardship programs as we were anticipating. So.
Yes, as you can see on the slide, we had 7 programs apply for hardship. And so far we've had 2 that have actually earned their level 2. So not as many as anticipated. Maybe with the business rules being a little bit more flexible next fiscal year, we'll have more hardship programs apply. So just a quick slide with the due dates and deadlines. Your second quarterly report is due the end of this month by close of business on the 31st. And then hopefully everyone did receive an email on this past Monday with all of their contract documents for next state fiscal year. And those are due back to your coordinator on February 22nd. If you didn't receive them, shoot us an email, give us a call. They did go out Monday with your budget template, your the EQ budget, and so it should be for Colorado Shines QI base funds, CCR&R, EQIT, and systems building. If you have questions about the budget amounts, just give your coordinator a call. And then, as Karen mentioned, the last day to apply for Colorado Shines QI is going to be April 15th. We want to make sure that the programs have enough time to spend the funds, and that's why we have that deadline to apply that's before June 30th. And also start looking at your budgets. If you need a budget revision before the end of the year, the last date to do that budget revision is going to be May 6th. So start looking at your budgets, and if you need to move funds around, need a budget revision, that's by May 6th. If you need an amendment, just give your coordinator a call, and that's going to be if you need to move more than 10% of your budget around within that budget template.
And this might be a really good time, Monica, to add to, like, those dollar amounts that we saw on that previous slide that have been allocated don't represent actually what's been spent. So it's a really good time right now to be looking at those programs who got those allocations and encourage them to get their funds spent. I know a lot of that money goes into coaching, but if they did have materials, dollars to get those orders in and get those dollars spent down, because that's another thing we'd hate to see those funds come back in to, unspent. That would be, we'd rather see them spent.
Yeah, and we did, many of you were at ECLA last week and were there for Stacey Kennedy's presentation on the preschool development grant. And we had several questions about moving from the ERS-R to the ERS-3 and how that would look with coaching and coaching budgets, and essentially who would be paying for the ERS-3 certifications for coaches. Karen, did you want to touch on that a little bit?
Sure. So if you are working on your budgets this year and you have any coaches that need certifications, it would just be for the ERS-R revisions, those tools that we're using right now, because any of the training for the 3 and certifications for the 3 will be budgeted for in the PDG grant, so you don't need to worry about that. But I think there were some questions about, I've got some coaches coming up for recertification this year. Should they do it in the current tool? And the answer would be yes, if they need those certifications. Additionally, I've been talking with Clayton this week just to make, to let them know some of these questions came up. And so they're also working internally to make sure that they're looking at this. And if somebody needs a certification maybe later in the year, they might just extend their current certification if we know that ECHRS 3 type trainings are coming up. So it'll kind of be at the point in time of when coaches actually need those recertifications. Really, basically, just call Clayton, work with them, and a budget for that when you're doing your coaching rate this year.
Yep, we will eventually, the QRS will eventually move to the ERS 3 tools, but it's not going to be overnight. There will be a transition period.
Yeah, we're working on timelines now. It's probably not going to be until fourth quarter of, September, October, November to even start the training, and then into January, February, and March to start doing certifications. Because the soonest we could do a cutover would be July of 2020. So that's kind of what we're hoping for at this point in time. But so that's just a little bit of perspective on that transition.
So we did have one question. Are ERS certifications required or suggested? So the certification in ERS tools are recommended because that is best practice, but they are not required by coaches to be certified in the tools.
And this may have been addressed, but these costs to get folks certified and in the tools should be part of your coaching rate.
It's considered coaches PD.
Yeah, it's considered PD. So when you're calculating your coaching rate for next year, looking and seeing who needs to be certified in the current tools would be part of that calculation.
Are there any more questions about any of the topics from today?
And I think we have another question that Michelle is responding to in writing about maintaining certification. Again, you don't have to be certified in all the tools that you coach. You could have your coach certified in one tool. It's really, based on what makes sense for you and your community.
Do we have any more questions?
I don't see other questions.
Okay, well, that's our agenda for today. So thank you guys so much for your time. We'll send out all of the PowerPoints from all the presentations and the recording. We do have one question.
And it was, can we resend the spreadsheet where you use it to calculate the coaching rate? And we can do that.
Yep, we can send out that. All right, thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your afternoon, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.